Right now on Tech Radio, the great switch off is here.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the very latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1089, looking at the 7 biggest stories of the week, including the end of Windows 10, MTV goes off the air in Ireland, and Apple and Google are making nice with the EU. Plus, we'll be talking about Shadow AI with Viatel's Lisa Hunt.
From TechCentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Justy. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, Windows 10, it's gone. That's it. It's finished. It's dead. It's unusable. We've just got to dig a big hole in the ground, bury it in there. Or do we?
Well, it's not gone from my laptop, I tell you that much.
Are you still using it, really?
This is one of those cold dead hands kind of moments. So officially, on the 14th of October, Microsoft ended support for Windows 10. I'm filing this under completely fine operating system that didn't annoy me, just like Windows 7.
Yeah.
Perfectly. I mean, if you look at the good inverted commas versions of Windows, Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10. Like, was anybody complaining about those systems when they were replaced?
It goes back to what we always say on the podcast, that you should never buy odd numbered tech. So never get, of course, Windows 7 was quite good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I'm shooting myself in the foot there. But the general rule is, and there's always an exception. But you're right. Windows 10 was a great operating system. Now, I use Windows 11, and I find Windows 11 to be a great operating system as well. So I think the difference between 10 and 11 is probably background stuff that most people just don't even realize is happening in the background. And one of the things that is in my head is, years ago, you would not have a computer without virus protection. And there were all kinds of various packages and everything you bought. Whereas now, the built-in one with Microsoft appears to be working very well.
Windows Defender is exceptionally good. It is very good. And you're dead right. When you bought a laptop, you used to have to get your antivirus on the same day. It's the first thing you installed after your OS. And we don't have to do that anymore. And the way that Mac users, of which I was one for a very long time, until they priced themselves out of the market for me, their whole thing was, do you know what? I mean, we're so secure, we're brilliant. PCs get viruses, we don't. But it's now, okay, Macs, there's a lot more interest in Mac security, but do you know what? Like, Windows is pretty much as secure at this stage, despite market dominance, and the fact that you can fairly sure that if you're going to attack an operating system, it's going to be Windows. It's not going to be Mac by default. So, that has been a huge leap forward for Microsoft, is the level of baked-in security.
The other thing that I think is a huge leap forward that Windows 10 cannot deal with is AI working in the background, whereas Windows 11 is well able to handle it.
That's the difference. And we'll talk about another company that's doing exactly the same thing, but this is all about AI integration. That's what it's for. I mean, I don't want to say nothing works on Windows 11 without Copilot, but Copilot is baked into absolutely everything. I think Windows 10 will be the last operating system where we have to figure things out for ourselves. From Windows 11 on, you can just ask Copilot, how do I do this? And it'll just tell
sometimes
you.
It'll actually tell you.
Sometimes it'll actually tell you. It won't steer you wrong. But, I mean, if you are in the cold dead hands camp like I am, there is a 1-year stay of execution for Windows 10 users. You can apply for their extended security updates program. If you're a regular Joe, you have to sign up, you have to fill in a form, and you will get 1 year of updates. If you are an enterprise user, if you're a company, you can get up to 3 years of extended updates. So it's not the end of the end, but at the same time, you are being politely shown the door.
And what about Windows strategy or Microsoft's strategy, did they not have a thing once upon a time where they were just going to dispense with the Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows 12, whatever?
Yeah, and I think what happened was that I think the assumption was made at the time that operating systems would remain largely the same. There would be incremental features added. You would update your security. It would pretty much be the same user experience. So if you want to look at it that way, an upgrade from, if you were to remove Windows 8, an upgrade from Windows 7 jumping directly to Windows 10 doesn't feel like a huge jump. They both pretty much keep out of your way and let you do what you want. Now, we have a massive jump from Windows 10 to Windows 11 because of AI, right? Now, from henceforth, will we see a return to that strategy of, do you know what? It's just Windows 11 plus a couple of things extra. If that, if the strategy returns to that, well, then maybe we will just have this thing called Windows. For the moment, though, unless, because we have had a large technological advance from Windows 10, then it kind of makes sense to not quite draw a line under it, but just to go to Windows 11 and then Windows 11 plus, Windows 11 plus plus. I don't know. What do you think?
I was about to ask, what do you think? I kind of like the names, okay, so that you know where you are. I prefer Windows' policy of actually putting a number on it rather than Apple's policy of giving it some stupid name after something in California. But at the same time, I get very disappointed when they jump from Windows 10 to Windows 11, which wasn't a huge jump in the user interface. If they're going to announce Windows 12, I want to see something new and exciting and better and bigger, but it'll probably be very similar to the one preceding. So I suppose the numbers devalue that jump up just a little bit. Yeah.
There'll be a change in the UI and they'll continue to tell you how great Copilot is. Well, and maybe they'll have done something interesting with Copilot.
Yeah. Listen, lots to talk about today. Another story that's just come, and this is a bit worrying, is AirGrid. AirGrid made a big announcement to reassure us all.
Yep. Apparently for the coming winter, there are totes not going to be any blackouts.
Which generally means there are going to be blackouts.
Buckle up, folks. We're in for an interesting winter.
and with a quarter of our entire electricity supply being used by data centers, it could be the data centers that makes your house dark because we can't keep up with the supply for them.
Yeah, and there was scuttlebutt last year that we were on the verge of a brownout at one point. The fact that AirGrid has specifically come out and said no blackouts this year, I think is interesting / slightly alarming because we don't know what serious weather events are going to happen, what kind of force majeure we'll have to deal with. Storm Eowyn was pretty devastating, and there's no accounting for that. So a wonderful story that I don't want to say backs that up, but it's kind of interesting that broke this week as well, is that margins on retail versus wholesale prices in Ireland, it's one of the biggest gaps between what energy companies are buying their energy for versus what they're selling it for globally. Are you surprised? I mean,
but what is the markup?
I was.
What is the markup? I should say.
The markup. Let's see. I will just have a look at the where I found the story.
No, what I mean is it 1 times higher? Is it 2 times higher? 3 times higher than the wholesale price?
It's up to 3 times higher than the wholesale price.
Oh my God! So if AirGrid are selling it for €1, we're being charged €4.
Basically, yeah.
And AirGrid are the ones who are actually supplying the electricity. The other lads are just doing the paperwork.
Yeah. So,
wow. Another energy story out today is Apple. And this is kind of interesting, actually, the way Apple are kind of looking at it. And I don't know whether it's a load of lip service or whether it's actually good, but they're going to invest huge amounts of money in Greece and Italy and Spain, Latvia, Poland, Romania, countries like that, in solar and wind farms. And they're trying to get around this thing. Like for Apple, they would be thinking their greenhouse gas emissions. And apparently, charging takes up a huge amount of Apple's overall greenhouse gas emissions. What's the number on that?
Yeah, apparently just over a quarter, 29%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So what they're doing then is they're building these solar and wind farms to put enough energy back into the grid as is being taken up by charging your iPhone.
Yeah. Now, I think this is particularly interesting that they're doing it in 6 countries, right? Because which country is particularly hostile to green initiatives at the moment that Apple has some interest in? Of course, it's the States and the Trump administration. They view green projects as some sort of threat.
Yeah.
So because we have this thing called clean coal, apparently. I think they're still talking about it. But I think Apple are doing a bit of future proofing here. They're rolling out an initiative because they know Europe is a very different playing field. The rules are here. They're actually enforced. And there's nobody to flatter their way out of any trouble. It's not like they can pick up the phone to Ursula von der Leyen and go, do you know what? We think you're great. Any chance of rolling back some of those things, we'll give you a plane.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out. Apple, speaking of which, they had new toys this week. So we've got a new MacBook.
I am going to contend that Apple had one new toy and 3 things to lure you in to it with.
I am going to contend that Apple had no new toys, which is why it's like 3rd or 4th down our list. They've got a new processor, which they're putting into existing products, and that's pretty much it.
And that's all they wanted to talk about this week. That is it. Like we had seen rumors of things like, a MacBook with a folding screen, with a touch screen, all these sorts of things. But our new MacBook Pro, it is basically, there's nice new screen sizes and that's fine. I think have we got a 15-inch?
No, I think it's still 14-inch.
Still 14, 15. Yeah, that's not going to kill us. But it's it's all about the M5. It's all about their chip that is going to power Apple Intelligence, which I still we still
have to see, really.
Yeah, we still have to see it over here. We don't have full fat because of their arguments with the EU. As always on this show, we're going to come down on the side of the EU because they're much more pro-consumer.
They're also the ones who can put us in prison.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they can cost us a lot of money. So Europe, you're awesome.
There we go. So anyway, MacBook Pros are going to have the M5 processor into it. Interestingly, the M5 Pro processor and the M5 Max are not ready yet. So they've only launched kind of, the vanilla level M5. It's got 10 cores, 10 GPUs cores. It's got 16 core neural engine. I was looking at that and I kind of went, is that not what the M4 had? And it's actually less than what the M4 processor had. But, of course, the M5 is more efficient. And because of that, the CPU is 20% faster. The GPU is 1.6 times faster, yada, yada, yada.
Which means the device has better battery life then.
Oh, well, hopefully so. And this is what I was saying earlier. Never buy the odd version of something because this is just an iteration. It's just, it's a wee bit better than the M4.
Well, if you look at what they're saying, they said, okay, here's a new MacBook, MacBook Pro, not a new MacBook. Here is a new iPad Pro. I've got a 10-year-old iPad Pro. Excellent piece of machinery. It's great. No reason to move along at all. And they've got a new Vision Pro, proving we're not giving up on extended reality. We still believe in spatial computing, and their their big selling point on top of the M5.
Now, hang on a second. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to the podcast. This is the new Vision Pro. It's the whole headset thing from Apple. It's the next generation. It costs $3,500 to buy new. Okay. So it's got a new processor. And Niall, fill us in the new feature.
It's got a new strap. That's what they're talking about. We've got a new strap that will make it more comfortable to wear for extended periods.
Oh my God. And by extended periods, they mean up to 2.5 hours before the battery runs out.
You'll get there eventually, Apple.
It'll be interesting to see because Samsung are getting into this space and they've got a big announcement next week. They've got Project Moon, and that's going to be their virtual reality, augmented reality headset. So we'll see what it is that they have with that. Okay. iPad Pro, as you say, yeah, it's got the M5, blah, 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 nothing really to report. Another story, kind of go back to your youth, my youth. You remember 1983 and a brand new TV station that popped up in Ireland.
In Ireland, in Europe.
And across the world. Well, yeah, and it was huge in the States. And we got our own version. It was amazing.
Across the world now. 1983. When did it start in America? Can't remember. But a little something called MTV, which was a cornerstone of my youth, a cornerstone of our culture as we were growing up in the 80s and 90s. Unfortunately, 5 channels on the MTV slate are being shut down. Now, some of these I didn't even know existed, so I can't say I'm going to miss them.
That's why they're shutting them down.
That's why they're shutting them down. MTV Music, which I think is fascinating that there had to be such a thing. MTV 80s, MTV 90s, Club MTV, God, I remember that show. And MTV Live are being shut down in Ireland and the UK first, before switching off in France, Germany, Australia, Austria, Poland, Hungary, Australia, and Brazil. Now, this is all to do with the Paramount Global Skydance Media merger, the one that the Trump administration totes had nothing to do with. It's also the one that is responsible for the canning of Stephen Colbert. So apparently it's all in the name of efficiency. To be honest, I don't think anyone really is going to miss those channels. They sound like add-ons. Apparently MTV these days, its actual schedule is just not a lot of music on it.
The main MTV channel, when it started, it was music television, and it was like, just popping out the hits all day, and you could watch it. It was amazing. And then I remember meeting the guy at the time who was running MTV, and he said the music wasn't really working for them after a couple of years. And what they found was TV shows were working for them. So they were doing a Big Brother-y kind of a thing at one stage. Where they put like 15 teenagers into a house and to see what happened. And they said they were getting better viewing figures for that. So that's why they went down the whole programming route. And that's now MTV is just all full of TV shows. And there is actually no music on MTV.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Real World was a very groundbreaking show.
That's what it was.
Its time.
It was at the time. Yeah.
And it actually had people that were kind of fun and kind of interesting to meet. The casting on it was actually pretty good. Now, I remember there was one season where all the girls seemed to be identical and they just formed this clique of mean girls. I didn't like that. But in general, the casting on it was really good. And, there were some shows that MTV put out in the 90s that really have stood the test of time. I mean, Unplugged, that was absolutely fantastic. Still going. And just the very idea of having stripped down versions of, fairly popular songs was a big deal. Yeah. I know there was some criticism of it, where some musicians of long standing were saying, look, I mean, you're just playing your songs on instruments that were invented in the 70s. Your actual electric guitars have a longer legacy than, your semi-acoustics that you're using. Yeah. But anyway, there were some great shows on MTV though as well. I mean, if you look back again, that 90s period, which I don't think they bettered, but I say that about everything. But if you look at the likes of, Jackass, Beavis and Butthead, for me, Headbangers Ball and 120 Minutes were sort of the musical highlights on a Sunday. But they also did some fantastic animation as well. I mean, Aeon Flux, I would love to catch again on the animation show because it was brilliant. And the catch every episode was she had to die because it came from a short film where she died. And they kind of kept that all the way through the show. And there was another animated series called The Max, which was based on a comic book series, and it was wonderful. It was really, really well done. Now I can't remember how many episodes of it there were. I don't think there were that many, but MTV was great for taking risks. And unfortunately, when they fell too far down the reality TV rabbit hole, it kind of lost its way. But anyway.
And listen, do you know what? The world has changed now anyway. We have YouTube, we have Apple Music, we've got Spotify. You can get music anywhere and everywhere you want. You can watch any video that you want at any time.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, there's personalization has killed the community experience. Like when Nirvana release did Unplugged on MTV, everybody watched it at the same time. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, God, and they played a Bowie song. They played a Meat Puppet song. They played a Lead Belly song. Like, what the hell is going on? And one of the great live performances of our time.
That's a really interesting statement, saying that personalization has killed the collective experience. Because you're right, like years ago, there would have been TV shows that just everybody watched and then everybody would be talking about for the next day or two. Did you say, oh my God, yeah, that just doesn't happen. I suppose it does happen to an extent in that, like, kind of say the House of Guinness on Netflix and series like that, when it drops, everybody's, oh yeah, we're watching that. But you can't talk about it because you may have finished it, but the person you're talking to has only seen the first 2 episodes.
Yeah. And it's just another example of how the communal experience is being chipped away at.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just thinking because humans are social animals. So that sense of community experience is kind of important. If everybody was just personalized in what it is that they wanted, you're losing a bit of that social community experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's all down to tech.
How do we work now? I mean, do we work remotely? You work remotely. Ish. Ish. Most people want hybrid work. So, that idea of the forced communal experience where you had to learn how to get along with people, that skill set just isn't as important as it was.
Oh,
you could potentially in theory, you could go from one end of your career to the other without having to, experience office politics, which sounds great, but on another, like, you got to learn how to navigate these things.
I think what we're heading into is just acknowledging a change in society as it's happening, which is a whole different conversation. Listen, let's get one more tech story out before we get into our interview this week, which is all about workplace and the AI and stuff like that. It's going to be interesting. A very big tech surprise this week. Google have made changes to fit in with the EU and the Digital Markets Act.
Well, I mean, they decided, our market, we can either make a change or we can pay 35 billion to the EU. How's about we just make a change? Save ourselves a bit of money. So this is all to do with appearances of Google services and products and whatnot when it comes to search. Right, because the previous argument was that Google was giving priority placement to its own products and services.
Yeah, Google Flights and Google Hotels and
exactly,
get higher billing. Yeah.
So they are tweaking this. So the idea now will be that Google will be giving equal treatment to its own products and services as other people's, in line with the Digital Markets Act, which is all about removing those barriers to entry. So if you're looking for a hotel with XYZ features, previously X and Y would be good enough to get you a good position in Google. Now it's got to be XYZ features just like everybody else. Makes sense, but there you go.
Well, you see, I think all of this is irrelevant than making that change, because the first thing at the top of your list is going to be the AI result from your search anyway.
Well, that's true. Yeah, that's going to be above the fold. So people are going to work harder for their search results.
Exactly. Anyways, listen, that is what we're chatting about in tech this week. Niall, thanks as always for keeping us up to date.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
As your company switched to AI, the chances are it probably has, whether you know it or not. But what can be done to make sure that employers can catch up with their staff and make sure what is being used is done so responsibly? Lisa Hunt is Microsoft Practice Director and member of the AI Steering Group at Viatel Technology Group. She had a chat with Niall Kitson about this and how to get the right policies and the best tools in place.
Lisa, for years we've been dealing with this idea of shadow IT. It's that, if somebody doesn't like the smartphone they've been issued, they'll just use their own, which brings with it a series of problems when it comes to data management and security. It's sort of the user is comfortable, but the IT department certainly is not. I've noticed the term shadow AI start to appear. Is this something very similar? Is it the same sort of mindset where staff are using something that's convenient to them instead of maybe using something that's more appropriate for the company?
It's a great question, and we're seeing a lot of it. I think as customers are, I suppose, reluctant to roll out AI in organizations, then employees will find a way. And it's a bit like bring your own device. They'll bring their own AI. So we're seeing GDPR issues with that. We're also seeing, IP being shared out. So when we go into customers, we really ask them, are they aware of it? We have a tool that we can run that will actually highlight who's using it, what they're asking, what they're sharing. So that in itself gives the customer a really good idea. I think shadow AI is in every organization, whether customers want to admit that or not. But I think with that lack of policy, you're definitely open to shadow AI. And then it is the management headache of that. We're also seeing from a HR perspective, the productivity gains that some employees have while using AI, even though the company has said, we're not using AI, they are then using it in their own time or on their own device. So again, it's really having a very robust AI policy that's fair and clear to all employees. That's the starting point for any of our customers.
I think that's a really interesting point about productivity, because there's generating work, but there's also the quality of work. So you might have people sort of being able to write out very large tender documents or maybe go through CVs very quickly, but they miss the details. Of course, there's always the problem of AI hallucinating. Is there that kind of awareness of the limits of the technology at the moment?
I think in some instances there are, but I think in a lot of instances, customers are not aware of what it's being used for. And, to also, if you are using AI, to make sure that that is formally recognised, as you say, in a tender process, that this was, worked on in conjunction with, for example, Copilot. But also from a vendor management perspective, we all work with a multitude of vendors. So if your service is also an AI generated or aided service, that has to be flagged as well from an inbound into your organization, because that may not fit with your AI policy. So again, it's that vendor management that you have an aligned AI policy. Because again, that's part of your service now. So I think going forward, that will be really critical.
Let's have a look then at, a company's AI journey, whether and sort of the challenges that companies are facing at the moment, from the point of managers sitting down and going, yes, okay, AI is part of our business, whether we want it or not. Let's at least manage it. All the way up to employees getting their training in and having that uniform approach to AI, whether it's, understanding the GDPR aspects to just settling on a series of tools that they're going to use.
Yeah, another interesting question. And that was why we conducted the research now, because we felt that there was a disconnect between IT, between the executive level within an organization, and then employee expectation. So we wanted to listen to our customers, find out exactly what their challenges were, their understanding of AI, and then help them navigate that. One of the things that we find is the senior leadership team, the board, they have an expectation and an understanding of AI, but IT are not equipped, or they're not resourced or capable to roll that out to meet the expectations. And then the layer below that, you have employees again that they're struggling to navigate this themselves. So at Viatel, we actually set up internal working groups aligned that would help our customers, whether that was technical or business facing or our own internal processes. So we could actually map out our journey. So when we talk to our customers, we can say, this is what's worked for us. I think training is key. That helps with the adoption and change management that's required within the organization. And that training is very different for different functions, different employees. So whether we have like an agent power hour to help employees that have already started, for employees that haven't, it's how to prompt. And then also for your senior leadership team, we have an executive primer offer that really brings in exactly where AI is now, what it can do in an industry specific case for you, and then what you need to do within your organization to get that ROI out of it. We see some customers that, want to go the machine gun approach to solve everything, and then they solve nothing and they feel that their AI is not working for them. So you really need to be critical in ring fencing what KPIs are costing the most in your organization that can be solved with AI, and start there rather than trying to, start everywhere, which is a lot of the cases that we see at the moment.
Because I imagine, not every marketing email has to be written by AI. Not every internal, report needs to be written by AI. I think, are we approaching that level of skepticism bordering on fatigue about the volume of material people are getting and its quality? Because as somebody that works around AI generated content quite a lot, it stands out as being technically competent, but ultimately soulless and draining to have to read. Are you finding that within industry at large?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of fatigue around that AI generated content. I think the worlds that we live in, we probably feel it and see it first, but that will start to trickle down now into, normal consumers that are probably not in that space. I think the main thing is to be authentic. And what we say, especially inside of Viatel, is to get you started, but not to get you finished. So to use AI as a template, where we normally spend probably 40% of the time, where do I get started on this task? AI can get you done a lot quicker, but then it's to bring the human of you into it to make sure that that's not lost. So definitely AI is not 100% task, fulfillment. It has to be used in conjunction with the person that is in that role. Otherwise, it definitely doesn't come across as authentic. And also it's missing that value add that either you as an employee or your company has in that space. You just become generic then. So I think it's critical. And that goes back to the AI policy, the adoption and the training. It's critical that employees know this is a tool to help me get started, but not to do my job. And it goes back to the paranoia around, is AI going to take my job? You have to say it's going to make us more productive, more strategic, but it's definitely not going to replace us, because we really need that human touch within the task to make sure that you don't lose that value add.
I think when it comes to looking at policy, where do you find the main discussions are being had? Is it at boardroom level? Is it at IT level, submitting a solution to boardroom level? Where exactly is it coming from?
It's starting, I suppose, at the board level, senior leadership team level. Where is our policy? And that traditionally has sat in the IT function, security policy, your data policy, whereas AI now sits across the business. So where we find the most success is where IT and the board or the senior leadership team go hand in hand on the journey. And we were out with a client there recently, and they asked, if we want to set up agents, should that sit with the line of business or with IT? And they were kind of thinking it'd sit with the line of business, whereas we're saying, do you know that data is in the right place? Is it fresh? Whereas if you sit it with the line of business and they're pulling that data and not managing the agent from an IT perspective, then your data isn't good. It's not fit for purpose. So again, it really needs to be a marriage between the business and IT to get the most out of that policy and to make sure that the AI works for the business.
It sounds like there's a slight lack of joined up thinking then specifically with agentic AI, that there's a sense of, okay, there's these new toys and it means we won't have to operate a large call center. We'll be able to slash our staff there without an awful lot of, I suppose you might just call it vibe management, seeing as we're in an age of vibe coding. Are you finding that as well, that people are getting carried away with, the zeitgeist of, AI version 1 is done. Let's have a look at agentic and what it can do for us as well.
Completely. And I think then when you start asking the question around, where is your data? Are you happy with your data? 9 times out of 10, nobody is comfortable, because the data you were comfortable with yesterday, you're not comfortable with today. So I think that is really critical for businesses. So, and to be realistic about what the business can solve in real time. So again, it goes back to, workshops that we run, bringing the business in, bringing IT in, and then understanding what the quick wins are, the low hanging fruit, but really trying to work as a team for those, rather than, to your point, trying to solve everything and wipe out, the customer service. It's really trying to find out what is the key workloads. Like we were talking to a client only last week, and they're saying that operationally 80% of their cost is reactionary because they don't have the data to have that in a proactive manner. So that's where we would start. And you really need to have those conversations with each of the, key business decision makers within the business, because if I'm running marketing, I think, well, I can automate X, Y, get rid of the retainer for this or that. But then that might be a small proportion of the overall budget. Whereas maybe I need to talk to maintenance, or maybe I need to talk to finance. So again, that's where you need a strong partner to go in and really work across the team, and then to decide, well, this is going to be a key project to work on, because you can't set up lots of different projects because you won't achieve anything. So we really try to be strict with our customers, and that could take a half day to really find out what exactly their shadow AI stance is, their security issues, but then what do they want to solve and why, and what will that ROI look like? And I think once you get to that point, then you have a realistic plan to stand up AI, but it does take some time.
Yeah, and just to sort of extend that, I mean, we talked about sort of companies sort of struggling to come up with policy, and there's the eternal issue of security. It doesn't seem to matter what kind of company is. Everybody seems to be underinvesting in security, and that sort of third piece of the puzzle is expertise. However, with AI, are we seeing the nature of the idea of expertise evolving far beyond the capabilities of the sector or the talent pool to even catch up with at the moment?
I think there's an element to that, but I do think there's an element of, where IT used to be the reactionary role within the organization. I do feel with AI now that IT can be your strategic partner and look to how they automate some of those security responses. So I think AI can bring a lot to a business if harnessed in the correct way. And then you can repurpose that capability that you had in the reactionary role into a proactive stance. So again, that's where we would work with our customers and find out exactly what IT are working on, and can we look to automate some of those? Can we make their security posture more robust so then IT then can start to skill up? And I think as well, there's a lot out there in terms of training and development. And again, it's harnessing that for whether it's IT or in the line of business, to make sure that they are ahead of what that can do. We see a lot of appetite around promptathons that we would run and getting the most out of AI, and then also that agent, whether it's a setup or management of agent. And again, I feel IT have a lot to gain if that's done properly, that they can then, I suppose, refocus on the AI piece from a strategic lens.
That idea of integrating prompt engineering into operations, it's an interesting profession or an interesting area, because it does sit right smack bang in the middle of management and IT. When it comes to sort of explaining the role of the prompt engineer, is this something that's landing, or is it still is there kind of an idea of, we'll just Google it and we'll find out what we need to keep going?
And traditionally, you see then customers dismissing AI, or if they have, bought licenses, they say, we're not getting a lot out of it. And when you drill into it, it's the lack of education around the prompts. So that's where we would spend time. And, sometimes you think this is simple because, again, we're I suppose, breathing it on a daily basis. We're refining our prompts. But when you really start to show different areas of the business, the impact of what one prompt can have on the other, you can really see the benefit of it. So, we would run those quite regularly as well, one-to-one or one-to-many. And also we're looking at, podcasts and on demand that can sit on the client's SharePoint. So again, that's a self-serve option, because this is not a one and done. It's continuous training, because again, staff that are going in now may not go in again for another few weeks. So, and those prompts then, particularly, industry or activity based, can really bring out a big benefit to them.
And that was Lisa Hunt, Microsoft Practice Director and member of the AI Steering Group at Viatel Technology Group, chatting with Niall Kitson.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. As always, so much going on in tech at the moment. We've got other stories online we didn't manage to include in the podcast today, including...
Sure, we have Maynooth graduate Zoe O'Sullivan making the short list of 20 entries for this year's James Dyson Award. Big Money explores the value of stablecoins in the G7. And Workday announces 200 new jobs for Dublin.
You'll find those and all the breaking stories online at techcentral.ie. On the podcast, we're back again next Friday with a brand new show online, and of course with RTE Radio 1 Extra. In the meantime, please do share our podcast with a friend. If they're into tech and technology and just keeping up with what's going on in Ireland and around the world, ask them to search for Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify or YouTube, and they'll be in with us. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks so much for listening. Have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.